Hello, everybody. Welcome to a very special edition of Wrestling with the Future. I'm Angelo DeCipio, joined by the Happy Haberdasher, the smartest guy in the room. If you don't believe me, just ask him. He'll tell you. Dan, the man Sebastian. How you doing, brother?
Good, Angelo.
Well, you know what? We've always said this, Dan. When something happens on the show, when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. So we had a guest scheduled tonight. We actually had two very special guests tonight. One is here, the other one is actually stuck in traffic. Our featured guest, Lou Bruno, will be back, the Meadowlands Monster. He will be back with us. But tonight, we have an icon, a mythical figure in pro wrestling, the legendary, the iconic, the Metal Maniac, my friend.
Yeah, don't mess up my name, the spirit. I'll squeeze your head like a pimple. I'll bust you up so bad you'll be calling for help to a Hawaiian seashell.
So how you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing good. The Metal Maniac is doing. How bad could I be doing? I live in Honolulu, Hawaii. We only have 79 COVID cases, and everyone else is sick, and we are not.
Good for you, brother. Well, how you doing, man? You're looking good, first of all. And this is Dan's first introduction to you. Dan, this is going to be a very easy show for us tonight.
Ups with those Elvis sideburns, baby. Give us a couple Elvis bars. I know you love Elvis if you got them sideburns down to your chinny chin chin.
The kind of charisma you can't teach.
Jeff, I had Rico Costantino on.
All I'm doing is sitting out in the sun and working out and just hanging out with the brothers on the beach and watching whatever wrestling, if you want to call it that, television, and seeing people trying to do things, and it's very difficult with no people in the audiences and
yeah, we're going to talk about that too, brother. The last time you were on the show, and we actually, this is kind of a making good on our first show. Well, we told people that Metal Maniac would definitely be back, and he is. Not under the circumstances we wanted, but he is here nonetheless, and so we are going to make the best of it. The last time you were here, you complained to me. You said, bro, I didn't have enough time to tell stories. I want to tell stories.
Listen, I got stories out the wazoo, but you got this guy and that guy, and an hour and a half goes by. You talk to me, brother. I can talk all day and never tell you the same story. I've been very fortunate.
It's going to be a very easy show, Dan. I told you.
I like it.
All you got to do is say, how you doing? It's off to the races.
And that's all you need to know, Dan. How you doing? And then we're off to the races. Now, the last time I spoke to you guys, I told you a funny story, and I'll just tell it very quickly, and then we can move on. You guys can ask questions.
Go for it, brother.
All right, so picture me. I'm young. I don't know jack. I just know I looked the part. I sounded the part. I couldn't work. If you put a gun in my mouth, I'd have been dead. So in the car to my right is Don Morocco. In the back is Jimmy Snuka. And I'm listening to them talk mouth shut driving the car. And you're coming from Philadelphia's airport. And if you make the wrong turn, you're committed to go over a bridge. It's like 1.5 miles. And you got a U-turn and come back. So I make a wrong turn and go all the way over and make a U-turn and come back. I get to that same spot like a shithead. I'm nervous. I'm trying to do the right thing. I make the wrong turn again. And I go all the way down and I make the U-turn and I come all the way back to that spot. I'm listening to them, not paying attention. And the next thing you know, I go for the wrong turn again. Jimmy says, no, turn it to the right. So I go to the right. And Morocco goes like this to Jimmy. Just like this. He goes, why did you tell him? We'd have drove all the way down and all the way back. He goes, bro, I just want to go back and get a shower already. Twice was enough. What a rib.
That's beautiful.
You guys could have had their 12-pack and just watched me drive all over Philadelphia like an idiot.
You know, one of the things that we like to get into, especially with guys that have been around a while, when you were smartened up, and you were smartened up by some seasoned pros.
Smartened up, but honest to God, it really wasn't. I mean, the parts that they knew I wasn't smartened up about, they purposely didn't tell me, so I'd learn on my own.
Well, let's talk about that, because Dan and I actually had a conversation recently where we talked about the smarten up process and how it's different now than it used to be. You know, how a lot of guys aren't even smartened up. Guys in the business don't even know.
Right.
Well, first of all, to me, really smartening somebody up is telling them, listen, walk in, shake hands, sit down, and shut the fuck up.
Exactly.
Nobody told me that. Nobody told me that. I walked right into ECW locker room, walked right by everybody, walked right to Jimmy, never said hello to anybody. It took me a year to get that stink off of me because all the guys were like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah.
Realized I was a good kid. The Pitbulls, they were friendly with Don Morocco, who I was friendly with. He didn't train friendly. He lived here, and he said, hey, kid, this is what you should do, pretty much. Go somewhere, do something, get out of here.
Exactly.
Back. So
exactly.
Pitbulls kind of helped me out, and they knew I was a good kid. And then they told all these other guys like Sandman and Johnny Hot Body and all those guys, you know, hey, Jeff's a good guy. Well, why did he walk by? I said, he don't know. He's totally green. He don't know. He's friends with these guys.
Yeah.
Friends with them, but they're letting him learn the hard way.
Sure.
And so that's, or here's another example. I see a lot of guys tying their wrestling boots and they tie a knot and then they have the strings hanging down. Well, the way you're supposed to do this is the very top, you go inverted. You go in, you tie the knot to the side, and then the excess tucked in and around.
Yep.
But if you're a top guy and you look across and you see a guy with his strings hanging down, you know the kid's as green as grass.
Yeah. Exactly.
And those are the kinds of things that really need to be told and smartened up about. I mean, look.
Yeah. It really is, you know.
I told this to a lot of young people. And it was told to me by Skandar Akbar. I got off the airplane and I was going to work in Texas. And he never met me before. He saw me with the picture of the face paint, but I had my hair up and I was covered up and I walked off the plane. And he comes up to me, Jeff. I said, yes, sir. How are you? Oh, Sabadi and Sabadu, let's get in the car. I said, how did you know it's me? Because I could tell from just the way you walk. I could tell from the way you walk. And so I tell these young guys, I said, you know, Triple H, he's going to be around a while. I was around when he first started at Kowalski's. And I can tell you, he could tell, like Akbar, if you can work, the way you walk, the way you tie your boots, the way you step into the ring through the ropes. Forget about what you do once you're in there. I'm talking about before that. They will know someone either taught you or you don't know shit.
I'm going to tell you something, brother. Here was always the dead giveaway to me. When I always knew if a guy was green by one thing that he did not do. Not what he did, what he did not do. If I saw a kid step up onto the apron and go immediately into the ring, I knew he was green as grass. A pro will always wipe his feet first. He'll always...
One of those things, you know, one of the many little things.
It's a nuance. It's a nuance. Absolutely.
From the 70s and the 60s, actually. But, you know, Jimmy used to do it a lot because he was barefoot. But again, 60s and 70s, you know, guys did it because they were around 60s, 70s. Ken Patera did it. Superstar Billy Graham did it.
Sure.
They all did it. They all did it. You know, now guys don't do it at all, just like they don't know how to interview.
Well, the thing about stepping into the ring and showing respect to the ring is tantamount to going into a karate studio and not taking off your shoes. You always take off your shoes before you enter the dojo, and you always bow.
Show respect for the people before you. With
Absolutely.
You, after you.
Dan, you have to interrupt me here, Dan, because you're everyone who watches the show knows that you barely say anything.
Dan, you can't just sit there with that goofy hat and those Elvis sideburns. Nothing to say. I mean, you look good, but speak up, will you?
I love you, brother. I love you.
Sit there. I'll take a picture of you and I'll replace you with a broomstick. You'll do just great.
Have at it, bro.
Well,
go ahead. I'll take over, Dan. You better hurry up. There can't be too much dead air with you.
No, it's fine. It's Angelo gets going. I kind of let him do his thing, and once I start talking, he'll get going again anyway. But I'm curious, following your career. I mean, being at my age, you had a pretty long feud. It was probably at least 10 years plus on and off with Jimmy Snuka. How do you go about preparing for those kind of matches where how do you not have the same match twice over the course of 10, 15 years with the same person?
Most people don't even realize. I've had I stopped counting at exactly 747 matches. And the reason why I was able to do that is because Jimmy took me to different places outside of the United States where you work 5, 6, 7, sometimes 9 times a week. And you would go, let's say, for example, he would go to Otto Wan's either for the first 3 months or the second 3 months or in and out. The first year I was with him, he was there in and out. And he said, kid, you really need to do certain things. And why don't we come with me and we'll go to Germany. Well, it's a thing where you're doing the same building. And it's a tournament 7 nights a week. It's big over there. And so I was working with him 7 nights a week, but they would do these little holiday camps on Saturday and Sunday. So I was working with him 9 times. Now, right. But there were rounds. So you could leave him laying and then start over the next night right where you were and pick up the match from there. And then he's making a comeback and the bell rings and he's got to leave you. And as soon as the next night, as soon as the bell rings, you run over, bingo, bango, you're back on the floor, and he starts right back where he was the day before. And so, it was like an elongated movie. It was like an elongated movie where, they stuck in the commercials and you had to watch the commercial. It was one of those things where the next day you'd come back and you'd start again, which is a completely different type style of wrestling. But I didn't know. I just knew to listen. And what happened was Bill Apter was just such a great guy. He made me the 1992 Pro Wrestling Illustrated Rookie of the Year. He put me in the top 500. I was the only guy actually with a picture in that top 500 book. There was an almanac. And the actual True. 500 that actually, if you didn't have a contract, you didn't have a picture. I was the only guy other than Sabu who was either in between a contract. I think Sabu was like in between one, but he didn't have one. I was the only guy that had no contract and was in there, and then he pushed me in every magazine. There was an article he did, the 10 best heels you've never heard of. Sabu was 1, and I was number 2. I mean, that's a big deal. I mean, these were all big deals. The introducing file. Guys wait years, 6, 7, 8 years. They cut their fingers off for. Bill had me in within like 3 months. Literally. I mean, guys in Texas, when I went down there, were like, hey, is this you? I'm like, oh, shit, I didn't even know about that. Because you didn't know about it. You posed for the picture. I said, well, I posed for a picture once. And right. I guess he was using all the different pictures and changing my gear because I had different gear. And eventually just settled on the black and pink until about 96. And then we went to the black and gold, which was like, by then it was my same colors as Jimmy. But going back to your question, Jimmy just said, "Hey, I told the story on the real quick. I'll tell it again because a lot of people didn't know it.
Yeah.
You know, I went to Jimmy that first night. I stopped in ECW. I said, listen, can you help me out? You know, I don't know shit, which was the truth. And he said, well, you're just doing an angle. You know, you come in and hit me. And then, boom, I'll give you a headbutt. You fly outside. You go to come back in. Tony Stetson's going to whack you with a chair. And then the match gets done with. We leave the ring. You get the hell out. And that's the end of it. I'll see you back in the locker room. Well, when it came time for me to get in there and hit Jimmy, I hit him. And when he headbutted me, I was supposed to go out. I kept feeding him only because not because I was a wise guy, because I just wanted to work with him. And finally, he goes, "Get out of here!" Boom. So I get out. And so at the end of the night, he says, "Oh, you know, come back to the hotel." You know, so I went back to the hotel with him, and we were bullshitting. And so he said. Then the next night I was working a Tommy D show. I saw him there, and then we hung out at the hotel again. And then finally, it was the next weekend was where we were working a show together. I was working Hillbilly Cousin Luke. I hurt my knee, and I was booked. And I knew if I kept going, I wasn't going to be able to make these other shows. So out of the middle of nowhere, I hurt my knee, and I said, "Go home." So I was smart enough to say, "Go home." So Cousin Luke just did his splash on me, 1, 2, 3. So Jimmy said, "Hey, go see you at the hotel." So when I went there, and he says to me, "Kid, listen, why did you do that? Your family was there. You've been in the business long enough to know." And I looked at Jimmy and I go, "Bro, man, I told you I just started." He goes, "Yeah, but what do you got, 1 or 2 years?" I go, No, Jimmy, I've only had the run-in, the match last week, and this match." And he said, "What?" He said, wait a minute. He goes, "Who taught you how to hit the guy once and flex? You know, who taught you how to use the microphone? Because I'm listening." I said, "Well, I was always good on the mic, and I got the look, and I saw Superstar Billy Graham. He didn't chase you around. He hit you once, he flexed. Same thing with you. You would hit Morocco, boom, he would go flying, and you'd stand there and just flex once, and the place would stand up." So I figured, why run around? Because everybody else is running around anyway. I watched the matches before just because I didn't want to do anything anyone else did, but no one told me to do that. I just figured it was the right thing to do. Coming from the entertainment business, you know, you play in a band, you don't want to play the same songs the other guys did, you know, on a band show, you know. So it ended up where I tell Jimmy, "I don't know." And he's like, "What?" He goes, "All right, look. Been in the business 25, 26 years at this point." And he said, "Honest to God, man, I have never been fooled, and you fooled me." He said, "Because there wasn't enough. If you would have been out there 5 more minutes, I would have figured it out. But because you were only out there for 5 minutes, I didn't get a chance to figure it out. I just looked at what I saw and assumed you knew. Now that I know you really don't know shit, and you came from Hawaii, and you really are friends with King Curtis, you know who Morocco is, you knew who Steve Aoki was, because he's the guy who brought you there. You brought me all the lava and the thing and the slippers and the food from Hawaii." He goes, "Now I gotta help you." He gets on the phone. Jimmy's like Tarzan in New York. He was like Tarzan in New York. He don't dial phone numbers. He couldn't read, couldn't write. So he says, "Dial this number." I don't know who it was. Well, it turns out later on, I find out I'm calling Angelo Saboldi. And so I pick up the phone. "Yeah, hello, sir. Yeah, my name's Jeff. I'm here with Superfly Jimmy Snuka. Can he talk to you for a minute, please?" "Okay, no problem." Hand the phone. Jimmy, this is me now imitating Jimmy. He goes, "Saboldi, Snuka, listen, I got this kid gonna drive me in, go to the gym, gonna stay with me at the hotel, bring me to the show, put them on all 5 and put them on with me. All 5 with me. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. Hangs up the phone and he looks at me and he goes, he's got the sunglasses on and he goes, I had to go wash my ass. You know, and that was it. And from that point on, everywhere he went, he insisted I went. If you went overseas, he told him, hey, I'm not going unless the kid goes. You know, and you know,
Here's the thing, though.
I was very fortunate, but I'll tell you where I got. I was this close to getting a job with Vince. I'll tell you when it was.
Oh, I know when it was, but go ahead.
There's other stories where people really think, but I never told this story to anybody. Never told the story to
I know it. Go for it.
1996, Jimmy's being put into the Hall of Fame, and they know at this point, Jimmy's handed the book over to me because they hear everything. We had an 800 number pager where you could call the 800 number from any phone for free and say, so-and-so, this date, please call the number, and I would call you. And I got a call, and it said Howard Finkel. I figured it's a rib. So I answered the phone, and it's freaking Howard Finkel. He says, Untitled Maniac. I said, yes, sir. He said, Jeff, he says, I need Jimmy at this thing. Listen to this. Poor guy, rest his soul. He says, I'd like to have my son. I'll have him there for you. I'd just like to know, you know, what's the attire? He says, oh, it's black tie. I said, okay. And then I said to him, I asked him, listen, I work for Jimmy. I have to answer the question if he asks me, and I know he's going to ask me. So forgive me for asking, because I know in the business I'm way down the totem pole, but I have to answer to Tarzan. So please tell me what the number is. He said, tell Jimmy he'll be happy with the number. He'll know what that means. I said, okay, that's what I'll tell him. And I did. Jimmy said, don't worry about it, brother. It's fine. It's going to be fine. So we get there and we're schmoozing and woozing, and I see Dwayne, and I hadn't seen him since he was a kid. I knew his grandmother, I knew his father. I kind of knew his mother, meeting him once or twice, but really, I knew his grandmother was very close to, very, very close to Liam. I was very, very, very close. If you met him and asked him how close we were, he would tell you they were very close.
Yeah.
So I saw him, and I hadn't seen him since he was little. I only met him once. But when I saw him, hey, Sully, big hugs. He said, this white guy, it's a problem, friends with your grandma. You tell her you see, the Metal Maniac, and she'll tell you about me. Okay, fine, blah, blah, blah. Jimmy, they take Jimmy for some pictures, and I'm just standing around. And Vince McMahon walks right up to me with Pat Patterson, and he grabs my hand and he says to me, in Vince's voice, he says, I want to shake the hand of the man who got Jimmy Snuka to wear a matching outfit with the headband. And he gave me a big hug, and he shook my hand, and he had this biggest smile on his face. And I just said, well, you said black tie. He goes, when did that ever matter with Jimmy? I told him he could not be put into the Hall of Fame without this gear. And so I had a place sponsor him and me, and they fitted us, and that's what he's got on his back. And he thanked me, and he just said, I've tried. I offered money. I did everything I could. I could never get him to do it. I figured I'm going to at least get a manager's position because I can talk, or an announcer's position. But that never happened. I wish somebody would hire me as a mic guy, because I can talk and I know the business.
Go ahead, Dan.
Go ahead.
Well,
take over for the next hour and a half.
On that note, you mentioned you ended the story commenting on mic skills. The Angelo and I, we've talked a lot on the show about the promo and being how it's pretty much dead. How much obviously with everything being so heavily scripted to the point where, there's pictures you can find online of wrestlers with literally words written on their arms.
Well, Dan, I have to interrupt you a minute, and I'm not accustomed to doing that.
Oh man, interrupted. That's
you are in the presence of a guy who was born with a microphone in his hand. You don't have to give the Metal Maniac anything but what time, what building, what city. That's it. Who am I fighting? That's it. He could take those 4 things and go 30, 40 minutes with it if you let him.
Well, that was actually what I was going to lead to.
I've seen him do it.
True.
Oh, bro, you have to share with you have to share with Dan, and this is a classic story, Dan. Okay. You have to share with him the kid that you worked who had his mom in the audience with him.
Okay. Well, there were a couple of them, but I know the one
I think this one was on the island.
Oh no! It wasn't here, but it wasn't here. It was in New York. It was in New York, upstate New York area, and what happened was he told me his mom was out there, and I said, listen, I don't know nothing about the kid at all. I don't know anything about him at all. And I just said to him, listen, just listen. Do exactly what I tell you to do. I'm going to tell you the beginning. I'm going to tell you the end. I'm not going to tell you shit ass else. I'm going to set you up on the microphone so when you come out, you take that energy that you're going to hear, because these people, they don't really kind of know you, but it wouldn't matter if you were a 7-legged midget with 3 eyes and 4 boobs on your back. They are going to cheer for you when I get through with them. I said, and I'm going to hand you the ball. You have to make sure you cheer every single person's hand. You get up on that corner. 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 You charge me. I'll jump out and do the same damn thing and start. And if you hear me say beach bump, or if you hear the referee say beach bump, you better start saying beach bump, or I'm going to kick your ass in front of your mother. But if you listen and do these things, don't worry about anything else. And when the time comes, you throw me off the top, you roll me up, 1, 2, 3, get your hand raised, get your ass out and sell your neck, go and hug your mother, walk around the long way and leave. Don't walk around the short way, walk around the long way, see your mother, and hold your neck and get some help to get out of there. Don't just walk out of there. If I see you walking out of there, I'm going to get up, I'm going to come out and beat you up. Don't do that. I said, but if you do those little things and don't worry about nothing else. Now, meantime, I don't know. This kid has only had a handful of matches anyway. I don't know. So, I get on, I go out there, I do my, my look and everything. So by the time they know, just from the way I walk, I'm the heel. They already know I'm the heel just from the way I walk. I stop and so by the time I actually do grab the microphone, I have something to say anyway. And in my mind, I don't know the kid. I said he's a boxing champion. I said he's an amateur wrestling champion. He's going to college right now. He's in his division. He's a division champion, and now he will become a professional wrestler. I asked him in the back, what do you do? He says, I like to box a little bit. And he does some boxing too, for what I understand. And I put him over, and then I said, and if you think you are going to use the Metal Maniac to put yourself over in this business using me as a stepping stone, I am going to beat you. I'm going to beat you up, and your mother's right here in the front row, and I'm going to take you out there, and I'm going to beat you up right in front of her too. Now, by the time, it's not exactly what I said, but I'm just giving you a little bit of the schmooze. And now he comes out and he runs with the ball. He runs with the ball because I got them annoyed. I got them where I wanted them for him. I I hand off to him. He's supposed to run with the ball as far as he can without getting tackled. He runs, he does the whole thing, comes up in the corners and everything else. I tell the referee, go over there, tell him, come get me. I'm going to jump out. He does. And he's told him, get back up on the corners. He does. And I yelled to the referee, come here, beach bum, go tell him. And I'm walking around, shut up. Here, suddenly I hear beach bum, beach bum, beach bum. And he's getting the place going. That's all he had to do. From there, I went in, stayed on him, got a hold, called a few hope spots. It was time to go. I gave him a Samoan headbutt. I went to the top. He slammed me off the top. He schoolboyed me 1, 2, 3. Got his hand raised. Got the referee out there to help him around. He went to his mother. He went the long way and went in the back. He's waiting outside for me. And he said, I get outside. And I said, how was it? Did you have fun? He goes, man, that was the most fun I've ever had. Look. He says, look at my arm. I said, what? He goes, I haven't even sweated. I didn't do anything. I said, that is what our business is about. He says, but why I can't have matches like that with other guys? I said, because other guys don't know shit. I said, have you ever seen I said, have you ever seen a blind seeing eye dog take a blind guy across the street? No. I said, there's a reason for that. I'm not a wrestler. You know that. I've told you that. And brother, if you and your Elvis Cyborg, I'm not a wrestler. I'm a gimmick. I'm a gimmick.
Exactly.
I don't do things I can't do. I don't do things I wasn't built to do. I just do what I can do and stick with what I can do. Well,
and that's the difference between then.
But this is the thing, Angelo. It took me, I think, maybe 6 years to actually understand what I was hearing from the people. I could hear people, but it was just making my heart rate go up. I couldn't relax until Jimmy forced me to relax. Then,
you know what? You said something really important. You're really honed in on something important, and it's the time frame, that 5-6 year period. We got guys, a lot of people who watch this show. A big part of our audience are young workers, guys that have 2, 3, 4 years in, 5 years, somewhere around there, right?
Yeah.
It seems that magic moment, that 5-year mark, that 6-year mark, it's almost like if they don't accomplish something by that 5 or 6 year mark, they're ready to either leave the business or go the total opposite and go balls to the walls to get themselves over in this infinitesimal time frame. You can't do. Explain to people.
Well, look, the first
psychology and the patience.
A lot of the young guys I met, I told them, about psychology, and they said old school is dead. And so the reason that you're seeing what you're seeing in the business and hearing what you're hearing is because, and you see the ratings, is because they believe that that's true. And the other thing is, the business has gone in such a way that there's only one way to save it. There's only one way to save it. And that is for every single wrestling company, top to bottom, to go back to 70 style. Second, they got to stop writing. Thirdly, they have to teach them by being in the ring with them in front of people without the film cameras there, house shows per se, and have guys like me who can't really work anymore, but who knows psychology. Who can take a guy who knows how to do all this freaking shit that won't have to use a goddamn single thing of it and just let me do the work for him. I'll take one bump, get hand raise, and he'll get more heat He'll get more sympathy.
Thank you.
He will be able to understand. And then I can work with him or work with them on character development. Now, I'm not saying I can come up with the greatest characters of all time. I'm saying I don't give a shit what the character is. I can either tweak it or change a name. But most importantly, I know I can teach a young person how to organically come up with something. Now, some people just don't have that, and that's why you put a manager with a guy like that who can't really do it no matter what. And then now you're talking about going back to the 70s where guys like me who were wrestlers, not in the 70s, but were wrestlers who could do a few things to be a manager would be good to come out with a star who could talk and put the guy over, put him where he needs to be, and be at the right time, at the right place to make something happen. Now, I'm not saying I'm great. I'm saying right now in the business, people like me who are still breathing and physically able to bring something to the table, like Gary the Pitbull, or like there's a handful of guys that can still do these things.
Yeah.
And it's, and the young kids, they think, the Tough Enough thing, which was a cool show, but the Tough Enough thing is how you do it, or the move after move after move after move after move after move after move thing.
Yeah.
Is how you, none of that is true. And
Jeff, can I stop you there a minute?
But Andrew, seriously, the both of you, you got to agree with me when.
I absolutely do.
They're going to save the business.
Right.
Which
I absolutely agree with you.
Look,
I have to ask you about that.
I don't want to mention his name, but a friend of mine I'll tell you his title, but I'm not going to tell you his name. I went to high school with him. And he never spoke to me about this deal because I told him, don't do it unless this or that and the other thing. But he's the president of Fox Sports. And they brought up, X, Y, and Z from WWE.
Yeah.
And I never, till this day, I haven't told him what I really want to tell him. And that is, look, you bought a company. This is how the business is. It's upside down. And if you really want to turn the business upside up, this is what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to get rid of all the dead wood. You're going to have to bring in guys from the 90s, not the 70s and 80s, but the guys from the 90s to do these particular pieces of the puzzles, and then have one 80s, 70s, 80s guy in there or two in there in the back to figure out how these programs will work. But
I'm going to tell you something.
What they got right now is there's too many people that have become jaded because they know so much, and it really is time to bring new everything in, stop what they're doing, and bring the business back down where you had bottom of the card, middle of the card, and you built up the card to the main event. And the other thing is, a guy like a Meadowlands Monster should be, the big man has to come back. The big men, I'm not saying giants. They don't all have to be 7 foot tall, but guys that are over 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", 6'6", 6'1", even 6 footers. These bulky, strong guys, it's nice to have those 190 guys. It's great, those 135-pound guys, but honest to God, you can't not have. Let's say in Hawaii, if you had a wrestling show here, there are women in the front row who are 6'3", 245, jump a car in a single bound and literally kick your ass.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
He wouldn't even you, unless you're Rey Mysterio. But you cannot have 40 Rey Mysterios. So what do you do?
Well, let's talk about something. I have to.
It is different freaks.
Yeah.
You can't have all blonde. You can't have all guys with goofy mustaches like you. You can't have all guys with goofy hats and goofy sideburns like him. And you can't have guys with mullets where the 70s are calling back my hair.
Exactly. Well, let me.
You put us all together. We look different.
Yeah, it's like talking to you, Angelo.
No, but I'm saying we
No.
look. No, but I'm saying we look different. There's different freaks.
Yeah.
He's a freak. You're a freak. But we're different. We don't all.
Of course. Absolutely. Here's the thing. Let's talk about this because there's a couple of things that we have to address. We did a show not 2 nights ago. We had Matthew Granahan. He said exactly, almost verbatim, exactly what you just said, Jeff. Talked about the nostalgia factor. Talked about, how to get eyeballs back. You bring in that nostalgia factor. Dan, open this up here. Let's talk about how we talked about wrestling, boxing, MMA, all these dying genres. That what do they all need to kickstart them? They need that familiar face.
Right.
There are no familiar faces around.
Yep, that's the biggest problem. The biggest problem with the current product is they don't build stars. They build cookie cutter characters, and that's actually something I was going to ask you about, Jeff. Was you talked about playing a character? You can play a character well, or you can do what they do today, where they play a very specific character. They have the same 10-minute match every night. And if anything happens where they have to change, it's 2 guys in the ring with deer in the headlights because they can't adapt. So that was like you said, and that's something I think, and we talked about the other day, is you need somebody to take the talent that's there and teach them just ad-libbing and adapting. If you could do that, the problem is everything today looks so scripted and so worked and so
it's
fake.
Cookie cutter, Dan. We talked about it. It's all
exactly.
Cookie cutter.
It's not a wrestling match. It's a stunt show. The punches don't look real. The kicks don't look real. The moves are clearly 2 guys working together.
Oh my
God! And if you could get somebody, like Jeff was saying, somebody who could come in and look. It's supposed to look like this. It's supposed to sound like this. Just give them a microphone and tell them you got 5 minutes. Go say something.
Dan, let me ask you a question,
promo,
Dan.
you're fired.
Well, 5 minutes, but 30 seconds is even harder because you got to get who, what, when, where, why, how, and you got to get yourself over and your opponent over. So it's even harder with 30 seconds. But
but Jeff, I got to stop you. Hold on a minute.
The answer's just it's not just one thing. It's a collection. It's a collective of problems that I'll tell you. One of the biggest problems I've met is a lot of guys. I swear to you, there are guys in the locker room said, I know everybody said Jimmy Snuka. I had to go look him up on YouTube. I didn't know who he was. Okay. All right. Okay. I can't knock the kid. He was honest.
Yeah.
I mean, to me.
But here's the thing, though.
In the middle of the Himalayas somewhere. I mean, but he was honest.
But here's the thing, and I have to ask you. You're a guy, you've been around a long time. You got a head for this business, second to none. I know very few people in it, and I know a lot of fucking people in this business, a lot, and you know that. And I know very few people who have a head for this business like you do. You did in 30 seconds or 40 seconds what guys can't do in 8, 9 minutes, 10 minutes. I saw a segment go 22 minutes one night. 22 minutes. Dan, tell me if I'm bullshitting, please.
No, you're not at all.
22 minutes, bruh.
That's
an accomplished squat.
Well, and you don't get into it either. I mean, you watch the programs today, and sometimes you're 30, 45 minutes into the show before the first match starts.
Thank you.
Well,
these guys had, Dan, they had minutes to deal with.
Everything's all wrong. Everything is all wrong. And the problem is, no one really wants to fix it. They don't want to fix it.
Thank you.
Order 2 fixed.
Finally. And I
Right.
got to stop
Right
it.
now,
Because finally, somebody gave us an honest answer.
right now, with the COVID, I would have used the COVID to shut the business down. I would have used the COVID to put on matches these kids never saw in the 70s, and the 80s, and the 90s and teach them. And then I would have brought back wrestling once the country gets past it. And at that point, but if you could reacclimate everyone, you may lose a couple of guys. You may have a couple of guys get bigger. You may have a couple of guys get taller. You may have a couple of guys get a little older. You may have a guy growing a beard. You may see a different name and everything. But it would, within 1 year's time, they could resaturate the country, and then they could start to do it all over again with house shows and build up and learn to resaturate the country without oversaturating it like it's been. And it's completely, I mean, when a sponge can't take any more, you know, I remember the first big pay-per-view, the second pay-per-view, then all of a sudden it was Tuesday night, something or other, another pay-per-view. I was like, this is in 91. I was like, wow, they're doing another pay-per-view 3 days later?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
All of a sudden, by the end of the year, they were doing it every month. And ever since then, they've dumped so much water into the bucket, the water's just flowing over. And now you literally have guys in the business who say, Jimmy Snuka who?
Yeah.
I'm not saying you should know who he is. I'm saying you should
know who he is. That's the point. You should.
Something, you know. Now, there's guys in the business, I think, who have great minds but need to take a break.
That's a perfect segue.
Who need to take a break.
Jeff, that's a perfect segue.
I don't want to mention their names, but one's from down south, and he is a mastermind. I think if he was given the opportunity to do what I said, shut the business down and re-educate everybody, he'd have surely been there, but he's burned a lot of bridges because he's hell on wheels, but that's what you need. Second, I think he's the greatest mind. I think that guy's the greatest mind. Another mind had been in Hawaii for years, went all over the world, but I think that, you know, with all the years he's put in, you become jaded. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's just comes a time where you have to say, I'm jaded, and I know I'm jaded, and I've had a run.
Yeah.
You know, I've had a run. Maybe I can be an advanced man. Maybe I can help with promos. Maybe I can help with this guy with his suits and teach him how to talk, something like that. But being in the programming and the booking, you would probably need to remove that person from the booking. And then even though he's great, you know, I can do this, I can do that. It's the same things he was doing, and now you're just rehashing. Although music, everything is rehashing, but there comes the limit to how much this sponge will take. You know,
along those lines.
Angelo, I heard there was some big changes or a couple of changes made in the WWE staff in the office not too long ago that had
big time.
I don't want to mention it.
And actually, I'm glad that you brought that up because we have some news to report tonight. It's exclusive news. Nobody has it yet. They will tomorrow. But there's serious talk that WWE is up for sale right now.
Well, and if that's
that's coming as no surprise to anyone, by the way.
Right.
I can already tell you right now, the Fox deal is a 2-year deal. I have not spoke to my friend about it, but I can tell you I could call him and I can ask him, but without calling him, without asking him, my first thought is Fox buys it up.
Well, every inside, I hate to use inside sources, but every inside source says the current ratings that WWE is producing is about a third of the minimum Fox expected. So I think,
Yeah.
Right. But somebody, see, this is the thing. I never knew this deal was going on. Okay. I have family in the lighting business and the television business, and they were all working together. And, oh, you know this one? He's my cousin. Oh, and I got a text. Hey, I'm working with your cousin. I'm like, holy shit. Blah, blah, blah. And I would have told him, look, if you're going to buy in, buy it all.
Well, I will tell you right now, WWE is making 4 cents on the dollar. That's it.
Well, look, the bottom
4
line,
cents.
you got to remember the COVID thing doesn't help on top of where the business has gone into the shitter.
You know what though, Jeff? Let's talk about that. I have to talk about this. We have to address this. Dan and I did a show recently, and Dan and I really want you to kind of
Hey, wait. Hey, Dan,
Yes.
if you don't think Fox is going to buy it, who the hell do you think's going to buy it?
No, I actually agree with you. I think it's in Fox's best interest to buy it. I mean, even the let's say the 1.3 million that SmackDown's averaging is still higher than a lot of the crap that's on TV today. But I mean, you have that demographic between say 35 and 60. If you tell them the wrestling that's coming on tonight is Jim Crockett, NWA, AWA, Bockwinkel, Gagne, Luthez, it's going to be exactly like you remember. They're going to grab their kids or grandkids and say, watch this shit. And those fans are going to come back. There is nothing on TV today that's going to get them. And I think Fox has the money to reach out to those people.
Well,
absolutely.
They need to do that. But like I said, no one in our business is going to tell Fox what I just told you.
Right.
Because
that's the problem.
Because there's much more an investment there than just buying the company.
Right. Absolutely.
Buy the company.
Of course. Well, the biggest
completely burn it to the ground. So like in Hawaii, when they want to grow pineapples, they burn the ground, and then it becomes more nurturable to the next season.
Sure.
That is what would need to happen, but no one's going to tell them that because that buying power now, instead of it being where it was, now it's here. And hear that, it's going to be, give it to us for what you got.
Right.
Yeah. It's in the shitter.
But, like I said, I never had the conversation with my I should actually call him, but the fact of the matter is, if he knows I'm in the business, if he hasn't called me to say, what do you think? He's crazy.
Jeff, Dan and I had a conversation. Dan and I both agree, and I got to have your input on this. I have to. Dan and I both agree that wrestling died when wrestling characters died and wrestling stars died. You knew who Hulk Hogan was. You knew he was a wrestler. It didn't matter what company he worked for. You knew he was a wrestler. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. You knew he was a wrestler. Steve Austin, Bruno, Superstar Billy Grant. I can go on. Killer Kowalski. All right. You knew who these guys were. They had name value. When the company became bigger than the star, pro wrestling took a header. It never recovered. That's our opinion. Say you what to this?
Well, I can tell you for sure that Jimmy didn't help in that regard. Jimmy was the first guy to really, Bruno started it, but only a little bit. But Jimmy was unhappy with his money several times, didn't go to the buildings, put Vince in a squeeze to get the money he was promised, not to get any more than what he was promised.
Jeff, did you hear the story that I told on the show about the...
Let me finish with you. And then, Hulk Hogan did that a little bit, not a lot, little bit. And then the only Warrior really did it. But Vince McMahon's own words were, I cannot rely on one individual. I have to rely on a team of guys. So no matter who doesn't show, I can
Yeah.
Then it became, when Diesel and Razor left, I can put anybody there. They'll eat any shit sandwich I put on the plate. And then realized that wasn't necessarily true. Then it came back
At
to
all.
the guys back.
At
Then they
all.
started to pay some more money. And then eventually you worked your way out of big guys into small guys, into showing people you're going to take Jake the Snake's DDT and not even cover the guy. And then you're going to get into writing. And then if you're going to write and you're going to tell me to remember, and halfway through the match I forget, and I don't know where to pick it up from, and nobody is a seeing eye dog. Everyone is blind. That's why you have a blind seeing eye dog walking a blind guy across the street. And then what happens is, by the third match, you turn on Married with Children. You sell the Fox. You sell the Fox what they could have never gotten with anybody, from anybody that had a clue. They just were on the outside looking in. But now that they're in it, they don't see it as clearly as you think. You think they would.
Yeah.
But yes, their numbers are down. But yeah, something could be done. But the only way you're going to save it is to do what I said. A lot of people have got to go. Some people are still left like me and could do a few things, but I'm not just saying I would be a savior. No, I know who could be. I know there's two guys for certain who are breathing who could do it mentally and run the shows and work off of each other and use a guy like me to help them along with some of their interviews, and then whoever else can't interview for them, and then but use the COVID as a time to shut it down, buy the library from Vince, put out all the WWE guys from the 70s, starting with Bruno, Superstar Billy Graham, work your way from that angle, all the way to Don Morocco and Jimmy Snuka, right through Hulk Hogan, right through where Ken Patera was there, then he was gone, he was there, and he was a different type guy, right through Hacksaw Honky, Jake, bring it all the way through, right up to The Undertaker, bring it right up through to where the business, even through 91 to 98, because they were still, they went like this, then they came back up when the boys were moving over. The boys were moving over to TNT or WCW, and then Stone Cold drove the beer truck down. Now you had something going. And then until 2005, and then once 2005 came, that's where you stop showing the TV. Once The Rock left the first time, you stop showing, or you bring them up to where Rikishi and the other two guys were together when they had that 3 thing going on with the worm and all that. That's it. And right at that point, you introduce new programming. You bring in more guys you've never met before. You can't use the same guys in the office, because if they don't know who the Meadowlands Monster is and they got time and effort in this other guy, well, why am I going to bring the Meadowlands Monster? But if you got a guy that thinks business, and it's not about who my pals are, it's about the product.
There you go.
That guy.
There you go.
I'm going to bring in that guy, and I'm going to find out who can talk, who can't, who can walk, who can't, and I'm going to make it happen. And I'm going to find out, so by the time I reteach the general public about wrestling, these people are home. At one point in 9/11, if it wasn't for wrestling, people would have been out of their minds in depression. But because they had wrestling, the people were captive audiences, and they had people in the audiences. But now they don't. So what do? You give them that by taking the tapes and putting it back on. Vince knows what I just said is true. Triple H knows what I said is true. But They're not going to do it because they're jaded. They know too much. But Fox News isn't jaded. All they know is money. And you give them a reasonable explanation as to why it happened, what to do about it. They are just in the right spot to, if you had somebody to say, listen, these guys are a sponge, they're too worked up, you've got to move them away. You've got to bring in the next generation where they saw the mistake happen so it doesn't happen again. And
Jeff,
you can go
W-
on without what I just said to you, brother. You might go shave those goofy beards right off because.
Well, Jeff, one of the things that we learned during WCW, and WCW failed for a lot of reasons, but not the least of which is that non-wrestling people.
The people who were running it didn't know the business like Fox. They're from the outside, and the boys were vacuuming the money out.
Well, yeah. Let me finish my thought here. Here we go.
Am I right?
Well, you're in the ballpark, but you're closer to the fence than home plate. Here's the thing: people running the business that were non-wrestling people, all right? When non-wrestling people were forced into running this business, and they basically were forced into running a business they didn't know how to run because of an acquisition that they didn't want to happen.
Mm-hmm.
They took a company that was worth $68 million, and it was in the negative when it was sold. They sold it at like a $58 million loss.
Yeah, but remember, in between where you are on the plate and where I am on the fence, guess what happened? The same damn thing you and I just said met right in between the plate and the fence, and it died. And you know
well,
why?
here is the
all the players in the business killed it. It wasn't the people outside the business. The people outside the business.
Well, then that's exactly.
They had big ideas, but it wasn't them.
That's my question to you. Here's my question though. Listen to me. Here's the problem that we faced. It was non-wrestling people that killed the business. Now it's wrestling people killing the business. Is it time now? Is it time now for a fresh set of eyeballs?
Well, the end result is exactly what you just said. It's a fresh set of eyeballs, but you say tomato, I say tomato.
But Dan, you're the ref here. Where did they come from?
The end result is identical, but getting there, it's tomato. It's the same.
So here's my question: how do we get there?
How do we get there? I gave you the key. I gave you the key of everything. You're gonna buy WWF. You buy it all. You buy their whole network, their whole everything, and you have people like us to go through, me or Gary or people like that who are willing to work hard, make a living doing it, and put on all of the old wrestling and build up and teach all the people during this COVID thing, and it's going to be around for a while, even after November. It'll eventually work its way out, but you have several months to put a bunch of stuff that's already edited and in the can, just needs to be aired. That's all. And start reteaching these young people who these guys were and show them the business. And remove all of the bullshit that's business. Like, I was at ECW.
You just mentioned my biggest pet peeve.
That's the key.
Tables and chairs and all that crap killed the business.
That's my biggest pet peeve. My biggest issue with wrestling has been, is now, and always will be. And Dan will tell you. Anybody who watches the show will fucking tell you. My biggest problem is no respect for history, no acknowledging the history of wrestling, and nobody's willing to learn from the past. You can fix the future if you look at the past.
Well,
because what we're going
you know
through happened
history.
before.
If you know history, you don't repeat.
Exactly.
But the problem is, I've got kids in locker rooms telling me they don't know who Jimmy Snuka is. They don't know who Superstar Billy Graham is. They don't know who.
Then whose fault is that?
It's their fault because you're supposed to care. You're supposed to care about your craft.
Thank you.
I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not saying you should know everybody, but you should know the top 20 big numbers guys.
Dan, how often do I bitch about this? How often?
All the time.
You're 6'10", Dan, I'm sure you'll agree. If you're 6'10", you don't watch Rey Mysterio matches unless you are watching a Rey Mysterio match against a guy 6'10".
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You don't watch Rey Mysterio matches to learn from Mysterio. You're going to watch The Undertaker or Kane or Hulk Hogan, anybody that had any height, tall, bigger men,
right.
the boss man, big boss man, Nails, how to work as a good guy, a bad guy, as a big man. So, but it's turned into a midget. It's turned into a midget world. World. I mean, there can only be one Chris Jericho, and there can only be one of what's the other kid's name from Texas? With the gimmick, good-looking kid. He's over. Was in Japan. He came over. AJ Styles. Okay.
Oh yeah, AJ. Sure.
Rey Mysterio. That's enough. The rest of my guys, guess what? I'm gonna find guys that are fucking, like the Metal Man's mom, like this guy, I'm gonna bring in guys who are big, impressive people.
Well, it's like you said too.
Real estate.
The key, not everybody on the roster has to be 7 feet tall, but you have guys today that are 5'11" being booked as the Giants because everybody else on the roster is 5'7". You're the biggest guy in the match shouldn't be 5'10".
Did you see my problem, Dan?
Like a wrestler.
I'm six. I go to all the shows. I'm 6'2", by no means a huge man. I mean, big for compared to my social circle, but I shouldn't. You shouldn't have 90% of your fans being bigger than the wrestlers.
Thank you.
Well, like I said to you before, in Hawaii, we have women who are 6'4", 245.
Yeah.
Kick your ass for real.
Right.
Watch a match between 280-pound guys and go, I paid $20 for this.
Yeah.
Dan, it goes back to the show we did when wrestlers looked like wrestlers. We talked about guys like,
This is what I was saying to you about like when Akbar picked me up. He said, I was a worker just the way I walked.
Exactly.
I didn't know I had that. I didn't know I had that. He told me.
And you're not a small guy, bro. You're a big dude.
265. That's a pretty decent size, average size.
Yeah.
But they don't have that now.
That would be the average size.
You'd be hard pressed. Yeah. You'd be hard pressed to find the guy your size now.
And you can have moments and matches with smaller guys against bigger guys. People like AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan have proven that. But when the bulk of your titles, your main event, your heavyweight champion is 185 pounds, and you've got a half a dozen guys on the roster that are 250 plus, 6 and change. It kind of hurts the mantra. Although I want to ask you something to expand on what you just said, where you said you had it. When you talked about promos and swagger, there's certain it factors. Do you think it's possible to teach that to somebody, or do you have to just scrap the entire roster and find the people that are trainable?
I think it's teachable.
Well, I think it depends on the person. Let me give you an example, and I used this example before. Brock Lesnar. I mean, God knows he can, fucking punch somebody in the face and break their eye sockets. Okay?
Right.
But not pro wrestling. But when I first watched him early on, and even till today, when he does an interview, his original interviews were really bad. They're better now, but I could look in his eyes and see he's not believing in the character. He just knows he can kick the guy's ass, and he's trying to talk about something he can't really talk about because he wants to just say, I'm going to kick your ass. And it'd been believable. But because they're telling him stuff to say and he wants to make it right and he's trying to think, and you can't think. Now, a guy like the Meadowlands Monster, he has something to say. He just needs a dial in. Brock needs someone to speak for him. He really does. And that doesn't make him a bad guy. It just means that his name would be along with some very great talent that needed a voice.
Right.
Period. Doesn't make him any less better. It just means someone else did the voices, and there were several multi-million-dollar guys who had a mouthpiece.
Yeah.
And even Superstar had one. He didn't even need one. But that was just for a favor. But besides the point, I'm just saying, Meadowlands Monster is the kind of guy where I've seen his interviews on his thing. He just says, listen, I'm the Meadowlands Monster. I'm 7 foot tall. I'm 325 pounds, and I'm still lean. And I can do anything the Undertaker can do. I don't beat the crap out of you. Well, that's not an interview. An interview, if I'm the Meadowlands Monster, I'm going to say, hey, Metal Maniac, I know you had 747 matches with Jimmy Superfly Snuka. I know that you have been at the top of the independent scene when the independent scene was the independent scene. I know that you were 1992 Rookie of the Year. I know you were in every magazine when there was the magazine days. When it was the magazine days. But you are not dealing with guys from the magazine days. You are dealing with me, the Meadowlands Monster, 7 foot tall. And I will stick my size 17 down your throat. And no matter what you know, I will make you pay.
That's a promo.
Now, I could teach him to do that. But first thing was he had to put me over and then say, yeah, but I'm the Meadowlands Monster. I'm 7 foot. I'm 325 pounds and I'm lean. And I got a size 17 and I promise you, I will beat you and I will beat you badly. You better have your insurance paid up. And walk away, or just have a look. Or
that took him all of 30 seconds, okay?
Right. Yep.
But what I'm saying is I could give him that. I could help him nurture that. Have him stand in front of the mirror and say, look, you see how you look great here, but if you turn this way, you look too lean because you're tall. Don't turn that way. Turn this way. Always make sure you know where your Achilles heel is.
You got to work the camera.
David Lee Roth from Van Halen was the guy I figured this out. I thought I figured it out with Superstar, but I realized later I had seen an interview with David Lee Roth, and he said, because I struck poses in the mirror, I could strike a pose and know what I looked like without having to look in the mirror first because I knew what I looked like. So when the cameras were there, I could strike this pose and 1,000 cameras could take the picture I wanted them to take. And I could teach that to a guy like Lou Bruno. But a guy like Brock Lesnar, he's just doesn't, he's, I'm sure he is a gentleman and a fine athlete and superb ass kicker. And God forbid, he don't like you. He'll beat the shit out of you with your left, and he'll stick his foot down your throat, knock your teeth out. But he doesn't believe in. I've seen him on TV. I've seen him talk out of character. He should have never walked out of character. He should have stayed in character, even though it's a work. He should have been working a shoot work.
Right.
So he could have been more believable rather than just his look, or you put a mouthpiece with it.
Dan, where does that conversation sound familiar?
Man, I feel like we've had that before. We've talked social media, we've talked kayfabe, we've talked everything.
Look at the guys from Fox. No one's getting in the business who has any juice in the business is going to tell them what you and I just talked about.
So I think
they do it's a big thing to take on.
Having a network run your program, having someone like, say, Fox, if they were to end up buying the WWE, you could get the right people in the right places. Someone like someone like a Jim Cornette, who knows what he's has a lot of his shows talk about, here's how I would do this differently. I would, Vince McMahon's never going to listen in full. I mean, you look at the people that are coming on in the company.
Could take WWE right now, Dan.
Right.
Jim Cornette could take WWE right now inside of a week and turn that fucking company around.
And that's my point. He'll never get that shot with the McMahons. He'll get someone like him could get that shot.
Stop. Let me stop. You got it right, and you just wait a minute. This is what I would do. I would have Jim Cornette. I would have Don Morocco, because Don Morocco knows television as well. He knows how to book stuff as well. And because the company's so big and vast and you have 2 different TVs, I would use Don Morocco, because I'm telling you, Don could not only talk, Don is smart, he's an educated fellow, and he's different, and he's also hardcore, but he's different. He has a different paintbrush than Jim Cornette. But
sure.
I think that everyone else, they could possibly very well be friends with me. I love them dearly. I'm not going to mention people by name. Everyone else has to go. Everybody.
Absolutely.
And I would be extremely careful of anyone carrying over past those 2 from the 70s to be in a booking situation.
Right.
Not even as an agent. Because then that bleeds through. I think it's important that the business set itself on fire, burn it to the ground, and regrow it again by airing those things. And while those things are airing, you have a team of people who are trainers, who are 80s, 90s guys, and teach them the things they need to know, like psychology. Every match must be a psychology match. No one picks up a chair book once a month, once a year. Ladders, tables, and chairs and all that shit are gone unless it's a very rare thing. And it has to be done where you can't have 45 guys who've been in the business who are looking to get as much money as they can, which you should, but not to a point where you kill the company like at WCW, because you're going to back all the money. And some guys are going to get a chance because this guy doesn't like that guy doesn't like that guy. It shouldn't have anything to do with that. It should have to do with, and I think between those 2 guys, I mean, Jim could do it by himself, but I think it will kill him physically.
Right.
Jeff,
you're
expression,
right.
The expression familiarity breeds contempt has never been truer than it is right now in wrestling.
Yes.
And that's the biggest problem. The guys involved.
That way. It's been that way for a good 15 years now.
I know.
Which is right about the time everything went to shit.
Exactly. And look what's happened for 15 years, 20 years. Go back 20 years. It's been like this.
If I may, too, something that would need to happen with a purchase or reconsolidation or something is you would have to reconsolidate the company and take it off the market, because a lot of what's killed the WWE is they're beholden to shareholders. They can't do certain things that would work. You can't have certain characters, certain gimmicks. I understand that's talking about money, but when Vince McMahon has to report to 30 people every week, he's talking out his ass and talking out the two sides of his mouth at the same time.
Well, Dan, let's
never
talk
get a
about that
productive
for a minute.
show with that kind of mentality.
Dan, let's talk about that a minute. Jeff, let's talk about this. Was it,
whether it's on television or in the office, all of this has been thought through and talked about, and you've got 2 years worth of information that they knew before anyone else knew, and they knew Fox was going to buy in, and they knew this time was going to come. Not the COVID time, but this time was going to come. But when COVID hit, I would have immediately, as soon as it hit, I would have immediately turned around and either said, I would have said to Fox, look, I'll sell it all to you, but you're going to have to redo everything. Take this, do that. We're burnt out, but you're not. You're fresh. You're
you know what, Jeff, if they had stopped production, shut the company down during this time, they still would not have lost as much money as they're losing right now. They're bleeding money out the ass.
Well, that's actually, if I can, that's actually something that's, I don't want to say hurting, but for lack of a better term, it is hurting, because with the WWE owning their own buildings, their last quarter, they actually turned a profit because they're not paying anyone. They're laying off wrestlers. They're using a skeleton crew that's already under contract, and they own everything. But which is what's killing the idea is you look at, like, Fox is paying them $200 million a year for SmackDown.
Listen to my words, Dan. Hear me a minute.
Hang on. Let me finish this
hear
thought.
me out.
Oh,
hear me out.
Okay,
It's like hitting the lottery on your deathbed.
Well, right.
That's what's happening.
The point is that there's no incentive to create a good product, because the shittiest product they've produced in 20 years is the most profitable they've ever been.
Well,
why should there be any incentive? Nobody gives a shit.
You're saying profitable as it's been not since forever.
No,
since the recent past, but the recent past isn't saying much.
Well, what I'm saying is
exactly.
you have superstars putting in 6 million, 8 million viewers a week, and the company's barely scraping by in the 90s. You have 700,000 people watching SmackDown, and you're making $20 million. Like, there's no incentive, because there's certain things that you have to. I hate to say it, but you got to kind of hit them in the wallet first, make them realize we're done, then change it.
Dan, you're a numbers guy, right?
Of course.
Okay. Think about this. There's no pay-per-view. Mm-hmm. There are no house shows. House shows have died a slow, horrible death.
Yes.
Pay-per-views have gotten so expensive, you can't cover the cost of running them anymore.
Right.
No one at home is going to pay $85 to sit home and watch a television wrestling match when they can go see a live show for $60.
Right now,
on average.
Right now, they can't go anywhere. But I wouldn't have pay-per-views with what is now. I would have used this COVID time, and there's still several months to do it. And I think it'll be probably 6 months to a year before it's completely off of our radar completely.
Oh, at least a year. I'm with you on that, Jeff. Absolutely. At least a year.
Take the year, and starting right now, I mean, like today, if they were to say, okay, this is what we're going to do, get rid of the shareholders, pay them off, get fucking rid of them, let's put all these, you have to. You have to.
Oh, my God, yeah.
If you're going to do this with wrestling, you need to be in it for 20 years. You're not in it for 2. So
the death knell for that company.
Might as well sell it and get out. But if you're in it for 20 and Vince is done, and you've been told by somebody like me or from them directly, you're going to need to burn it to the ground and bring it back up again. We're too we're too old. We're too burnt out. You're not. You're just the guy and the kind of people and the infrastructure to get it done. Okay, fine. Knowing that this is a 20-year proposition, you're not going to make money till 5 years. You have all the other businesses floating it, and you have to make that commitment. If you're willing to do that, I take these 2 guys, I bring in these other guys to help with these talents. I bring in every piece of talent I can get my hands on and find out what they can do, what they can't, and get them ready. Reteach everybody with the old tapes. So by the time you have a live event, you can eventually start to show a TV show that's of the stars you have now and have a good storyline and take one more year to recreate your stars. And then after the 2 years is over, then you can start with a house show once a month in this area and once a month in that area and go back to the original thing and help. Fox should help every single solitary one of the small independent companies. So that would be the training ground for these guys. And then you can have your own training ground. So they go from, let's say they go from, Gino Caruso's guys that are working twice a week, 3 times a week, twice a week, every week, which is a lot for a wrestler in an area. Oh,
God, sure.
And then take them and then bring them to, let's say, a Memphis-style thing where they do have 5 or 6 shows lined up because they have a current little show there and work it that way. And they pay their dues. And then finally they get to come to WWE. And then they do dark matches. And then they start working with house shows that you've created. Because by that time...
Exactly.
That's year 3 now. That's year, boys, you're talking year 3 to 4. By 5 years, you have new established talent. You've established everything's brand new. The seeds it was burnt to the ground. The seeds have come up. And probably a guy like Don, at that point, he'd be in his mid-70s by then. And probably Jim Cornette, I would say if he's probably 60, I don't know how old he is. I'm 57, so I'm going to say he's 63.
No, he's actually 58.
How much?
He's 58.
Well, if he's 58, God bless him. He's been through a lot.
He's 58.
So he's 58. I thought I had a lot of miles. All right, so he's 58. So he'll be 64.
Yeah. He's 4 years younger than I am.
He'll be 64 by the time he'll be able to walk away and say, okay, I did what I came to do. I was allowed to come and do it.
Exactly. That's the thing, Jeff. You just put your finger on it.
Do Don's job. And
you just put your finger on it. Dan and I actually talked about this, about these. We just talked about it the other night, about these guys having their hands tied.
Yep.
That they're not being allowed to do what they know how to do. Dan, we've been talking about WWE for the last few minutes. Let's talk about some of the other companies that are dealing with the same issue. Yep. AEW, they got a billionaire owner, young guy in this case.
What's the owner's name?
Tony Khan.
Tony Khan.
Now you got on the one hand, here you go. You got a 75-year-old billionaire who's losing touch. You got a 36-year-old billionaire that's got endless pockets.
Who's that?
And apparently he's just like
Tony Khan's father owns the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where
football team.
Tony Khan owns AEW.
All right, so the junior owns AEW.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, he took daddy's money and bought a wrestling company.
Yeah, he bought his kid a wrestling company.
Basically.
But they own a football team. They own their own stadium.
Yeah, which is why they've been able to do the shows.
They own their own arenas.
Yep.
But here's another company, Jeff. They're bleeding money out the sides. Dan, walk me through this. How does a company like AEW?
Hang on. I was just about to say something. Jeff, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was gonna. You and I bet you and I are right about to say the same damn thing. But go ahead.
Well, no. The thing is, you're hemorrhaging money because you're producing a lackluster product. I mentioned on the show the other day, and just this week the numbers came out today. AEW beat NXT head to head with less than 800,000 viewers. That was the
think about that.
700 and change thousand won the week.
You had
a small territory anywhere, Memphis, any of these territories that didn't have any kind of national audience whatsoever, and you were pulling in 3 to 5 million people every show and 30 to 60,000 people at your arena shows, you had a product that works. And the problem is you have so much money being thrown around at crap. You have to really, our guest is a great example. You have talent you could go get and pay them what they're worth, or you can pay some bum, nobody who's not drawing a fucking cent $20 million a year.
Exactly.
First of all, if anybody can make $20,000 a day doing what I did for $100 a day, God bless them.
Right.
But if you have billions of dollars, if you don't spend it, you're going to be giving it to the government. So, Daddy said, look, we got to spend some money somewhere. Why don't we do this? We can't do it another way. We can do it because Vince can't go into our arenas and say, I won't bring my event here and use that as a lever to keep you out. So they were do that. But here's another thing where you have guys from the outside coming in the business who are surrounded by people who just want to vacuum the money out because they know this will end, instead of someone who could actually help them recreate something that's been missing. They could buy, if it was me, I'd go and buy IWCW tapes. I'd go buy whatever I could buy that was available to buy. I'd shut it down. I'd bring everybody together that was worth having and put them on like $500 a week just to keep guys from going anywhere. Work a job, but I'll still give you $500 a week. Just don't go to Vince. We're gonna do this. We're gonna burn the place down and rebuild it, like we do in Hawaii when we go to plant to make the soil fertile. But at this point, I think it's stupid to say, after seeing history, I think it's stupid to say, I want to make WWF the greatest thing. I'm going to buy it, and I'm going to get rid of everybody, and I'm going to buy the tapes, and I'm going to do all this stuff, but I'm not going to help AEW. I'm not going to help this guy. I'm not going to help that guy. I'm not going to help that. No.
Yep.
I'd do it. I'd get all these guys in the same room at the same time, and I'd say, okay, we're going to have a national program, but we're not going to have a national program without you involved. We're going to co-promote.
Like a modern territory system.
I'm going to bring your guys in. I'm going to bring your guys in, but I'm going to send it back in one piece too. And so you could go from Florida to Minneapolis to here to there to the big time. Yep. Okay, you had a 2-year run, 3-year run, 5-year run. Guess what? You're hot. You're hot. You can go back to the Indies and work another 5 years.
Yeah.
You come up with a different character that catches on. Who knows? But you work together. There's more than enough, because not everybody can afford to put on a pay-per-view. Some can, some cannot.
Yeah.
Some like it local. Like Lawler, he was able to make money because he had the formula. He had a small TV. He didn't need worldwide TV. He made a living. And
Jeff, you want to hear something along those lines? Here's the ironic thing. Exactly what you're talking about. Here's the ironic thing. The one company that was custom made for this coronavirus is the one company that shut down first. NWA Power. NWA was custom made for this. They already had a TV studio, small audience, low production cost. They had everything going, and they had internet. They didn't have to spend money for TV. And they had worldwide distribution. the one company that could have survived, succeeded, and finally made a name for themselves as the National Wrestling Alliance, went by the wayside because they panicked. They did the one thing you never do in a crisis. They panicked. The WWE and AEW, on the other hand, didn't panic enough.
Right.
Now they're suffering. Go ahead, Dan.
I don't know. I think NWA, I think they had to stop. I think that they don't, if they don't have the old films of the NWA, they're screwed. I think Vince owns those films. I think that they should have spent some money on getting those films. And I think they should have retaught and re-educated the people in their area with those films, aired those films, and done their own thing, but in coordination with all the other companies, and decided, look, this is what we need to do. Now's the time to do it. And you're not wrestling match with nobody in the crowd. So let's reteach them the product. Let's rethink the product, reteach the product. And by the time we come out on the other side, we'll be able to start again. Because at this point, the wings are flying off. And it's not, I'm not talking about the virus. The wings are flying off because the product was flying with one wing and they were losing fuel.
Yeah.
And right at that very moment,
but what
Fox bought a plane that was running out of fuel, but nobody told them that.
But could they
not told him? If he'd have called me and said, Jeff, look, this is what I'm thinking on doing, I would have told him, look, don't do it unless you're prepared to do this, that, this, and that, because it was always in my head. If they were in there, I was like, why didn't he just buy them all, get all those people with their hands in it, get rid of everybody, and then this thing hit, and I'm like, wow, what a great time to reteach everybody the product.
But would that opportunity for them to do something, would it still have failed inevitably, or could they have learned something from their mistakes?
First of all, that did not fail. You would be airing products that were already home runs.
Well, that's true.
Even if for a different time, it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah, true.
Because it was the flavor of what would have been put on the plate would have been better than what they were getting anyway.
Yeah.
And let's say like the NWA guys. A lot of those people in the audience, they really didn't know who the Midnight or the Rock and Roll Express was until they went back and looked. Then they got excited about him.
And you know what? And Jeff, that's a great point. That's a really great point, Jeff. And again, going back to what we talked about earlier, Dan and I, talked with you about the history of the business, and that's not even that the workers don't know the history. The fans don't know the history because a lot of them are young.
Well, and like, the other problem is a lot of the fans. The other problem is you have fans that know the history, but they look at Flair, Rhodes. They look at Steamboat Savage, and then they watch a Young Bucks Kenny Omega match and say, "Well, back the old product was crap. This is what's good." You have fans who not only don't know the history, they don't appreciate it because they grew up in an era where they were, I don't want to say taught, but they were taught that wrestling used to suck, and now here's the good stuff.
And I want people to know they're hearing that from a 36-year-old guy.
I think, James, I really think that would have worked its way out if they were ahead of the curve and they did exactly what I've been saying to do. If they'd have done what I just explained to you to do and been ahead of the curve and prepared for it, and all of a sudden, okay, it's January, something's wrong, February shutdown, boom, shut it down. Why? Now's the time. We can't save the business. We can only steal from somebody who doesn't know. And then they're going to be left holding the bag, which is where Fox is. Because if Fox had a clue, they would have understood. But because they were from outside the business looking at this pretty little diamond, instead of seeing inside was quartz. And it was rotting from not because, Vince did something wrong. Vince did what Vince does. He's a salesman. Hey, I have a product. Yes, it's worth X amount. I'll sell you this much. Now I'm going to sell the rest. Okay, well, we'll buy it up. Well, eventually, it's either going to fold and then they'll say, I wish I knew, or somebody's going to call me or somebody and say, what should we do? You're in the business. And the first thing I'm going to tell them is the same thing I told you. Shut it down. Get
Dan?
Everyone. Shut the whole country down. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry. Combine them all. Make it worth everyone's while to be part of it. And re-teach everyone. Yes, you may lose some fans, but you will gain more than you will lose.
Absolutely.
And it's a 20-year deal. It takes 5 years to grow an oak.
Yeah.
5 years to grow an oak. So you're going to have to take the first 5 years. The second 5 years, you're really killing it. And then if you don't make the mistakes of history, you got another 20 years from there.
Well, it's the same,
now,
the same. It's a simple business proposition. It takes 3 to 5 years in any business. I don't care what business you're in. It takes 3 to 5 years to turn your first dollar of profit. Dan, I have a theory, and maybe you tell me if I'm full of shit or if there's credibility to this. I think Fox bought WWE because they know it was a failing company and they needed a write-off.
Nah. They could look at.
Call me cynical, but that's what I believe.
If Fox wants to set money on fire, they could have set money on fire. They didn't need Vince. They've been setting their money on fire for a long, long, long time.
Yeah, they've been making a lot of money for a long time too, bro.
Yeah, well, they should. Their infrastructure is massive, and they're
I know.
So what's new? I mean, they need to burn some money. Okay, I don't think they bought it to burn money because there's no way you're going to spend $4 billion and not answer to the higher ups.
Well, look at Tony Khan.
Who's Tony Khan?
The guy that owns
AEW. Did his father really need to spend billions of dollars to buy a wrestling company?
No. But $1 billion. Look, a guy who's got $5 or $6 billion or 10 or $37 billion is not, a $5.7 trillion company. You're comparing apples to bananas.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, those are the only fruits I have right now.
But Vince has billions of dollars, but he could be completely absorbed 10 times over by Fox, and Fox wouldn't even need to wipe their ass.
Brother, I would love to go. I would love to go on with this, but Dan, we're going to have to. Absolutely. We're going to have to wrap it up. I'll let you take us home tonight. Bruh, thank you so much. We only have, like an hour and a half. We're already almost at the 2 hour mark.
Why? What happens? People turn into pumpkins after the 2 hour mark?
No, we have time constraints for our sponsors and our streaming services.
Time constraints?
Yes.
To do it a constraint. You take it and you put it where the sun don't shine. And then
I can't do that. I can't do that. I need their sponsorship.
What's your show again?
Wrestling with the Future.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Metal Maniac, the greatest ever, coming to you live from the pinnacle of professional wrestling, Wrestling with the Future. And if these people don't listen to what we talk about, you be looking at wrestling with the past. It's James and Despiro with the goofy hairdo and the mustache and whatever the hell he's got going on. And just stay tuned and make sure you check in with them and see when they're online. And for all the sponsors, Kish mein Tuchus. If you don't know what that is, ask the nearest Jew.
Oh, Jesus.
You're looking at the greatest ever. And if you got a wrestling company and you got a few shekels and you need someone to talk,
Shekels.
I'm the guy you want to call, Jabroni. And they weren't talking about me when he came up with that name. And it was the Shiki who came up with it too. So remember, it's the Metal Maniac and these two goofs. Get it right, or I'll squeeze your head like a big, fat zit. And James, clean it up a little bit, all right? Be professional. All right, it's the Metal Maniac signing out, brother. Get it right, the Metal Maniac. Yeah.
I love you, bro. Mahala. Take care.
That's a hell of an endorsement.
God. That's my buddy. I've known him for 35 years.
Oh, hilarious.
Oh, my. I told you, Dan, you know, when you got Jeff Miller, the Metal Maniac, you don't have to do a lot of talking. But if you have to ask a question, you might want to write it down, submit it by mail. It'll get there faster, you know, a lot faster.
I was going to say, we didn't have to do a lot of talking, but we weren't able to do a lot of talking against our will either. But, you know.
I know. Are you kidding me? We got chastised on our own show for crying out. Damn, I've never seen anybody shut you up. Holy shit, brother.
Oh, I got 3 questions and you cut me off for 2 of them.
Did I really? I'm sorry, I wasn't aware. Sometimes I get a little animated. Forgive me.
No, it was a very not heated. It was a very
spirited
conversation.
It was
a lot
very
of fun.
Spirited.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, there's clearly a guy who knows the business.
Oh, my God. Are you kidding me? And I meant when I said that, too. I know I know a lot of guys in this business. I mean, you know, not to toot my horn, but I know a lot of people in this business. I've been around this a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And he is by far, one of the smartest guys. You know, you don't talk about a guy being the smartest guy in the room. You put him in the room with a bunch of wrestling guys, he's the smartest guy in the room.
That's way to have it.
For sure. He's just got such a head for psychology. You know, you hear me talk about, I know sometimes it's like, all right, let Angelo talk. He's the old fart. You know, just let him get it out, you know. Give him his pablum and then shut him up, whatever. But here's the thing, though, on a serious note, on a shoot. The whole idea was back in the day to make them believe that what you were doing was real.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like you pointed out, it looks like, you know, 2 guys working together. It looks like 2 guys that you know, they spent a week in rehearsal.
Yeah.
And now they're coming out to practice what they rehearsed.
Right. Well, and that's exactly
what it looks like.
You know, he talks about, like, obviously he's got a lot of stories. You know, Jimmy Snuka would go up to the top rope and he'd come down with the chop and it looked like you were taking that chop whether you wanted to or not. Nowadays you watch it and the guy goes up to the top rope and the guy that's in the ring and he's, you know, he's lining himself up, or the guy that gets knocked over spends 10 minutes adjusting so he's in the right spot for who's about to jump off the top rope. You know,
that should be instinct. That's the problem.
I mentioned it a while ago. You watch, one of the biggest moments in wrestling history was when Hogan beat Sheik for the title. When he hit the boot, Sheik landed the wrong way.
I know.
But he rolled the bounce to where he was positioned, and it didn't look like he was adjusting. It's exactly what he was doing, but it was so natural.
Instinct.
Exactly. Nowadays, you watch the same moment. Just the other day, AEW guy gets drop kicked, and he damn near rolls out of the ring, rolls back, straightens his legs, kind of pops his shirt. You know, now I'm good. Jump on me, and it's like, come on, you're so obviously working together. It doesn't look like a real fight.
Could you possibly insult my intelligence anymore?
Exactly. Wrestling fans.
We all know. See, here's the thing, Dan. We're smart. We know, and I'm not talking about smart to the business. We're smart. We're intelligent people. Okay.
Right.
We know it's a work. We know it's what we're seeing is entertainment. We get it. Okay. But we also want to believe that what we're seeing is compelling entertainment.
It's like watching
it's not even compelling, bro. They're not even trying to make it look like a fight.
It's like watching a movie with really bad special effects. When it becomes obvious that the film crew's not trying to make it look real, it hurts the audience. It's the same thing with wrestling. When the wrestlers aren't trying to make it look real, why am I going to care that you're trying to what you're doing?
I'll give you a perfect analogy, and you'll appreciate it being a film guy. You'll appreciate it. It's like the difference between Plan 9 from outer space. You're already popping.
Ed Wood.
It's the difference between Plan 9 from outer space and Avatar.
Right.
Or Bela Lugosi meets the Brooklyn Gorilla and JFK.
Yeah.
Or Lincoln. That's what we're talking about. We're talking
I get
about, from the overtly ridiculous to the compelling, to the point where if you're in a theater watching JFK or Lincoln or Avatar, you're drawn into that. Mm-hmm. That's how wrestling used to be. Even, I don't care if you watched it on television, pay-per-view, or a live show. Especially if you were in a live show and you were sitting there with all the action going on in front of you, you were drawn into that because you actually were part of it. That's why when Matt Granahan was here the other night, and we were talking about it, that wrestling is the only form of entertainment and sport where you have to have an audience. You don't need an audience in boxing, MMA.
Yep.
You don't even need, honestly, you don't even need a crowd in football, baseball, hockey. You don't need any of that. Wrestling is it's a fan-driven sport.
Absolutely.
It's fan-driven, and fans are required because they are part of the story.
Yep.
And have been since day one.
Absolutely.
Take that away, and you have what our friend, Mike Messier likes to call the empty arena era.
Yeah, and you saw that with the this year's WrestleMania, before they started putting the trainees, in the crowd. The wrestlers would hit a move and then pose or do this to the crowd, and it's like there's no one there, and the dead silence killed the flow of the match, because the moments where you're supposed to hear a pop or you're supposed to hear booing or yes chants or whatever never came, and the match it didn't feel right at all.
I absolutely agree with you, and you are 100% right. There's something inherently missing from today's wrestling. It's no longer, you try to make it interactive. I get it, and I understand where they're going with it. And you try to create the feeling of some ambient crowd noise, and I get that too, but it's just not the same. It's not like having 15,000 or 20,000 people screaming at the top of their lungs when somebody comes down the aisle. It's just not. It's like our friend Armageddon, Mike Murphy said, the guys that come out now and they go, and the crowd goes mild, know?
Yep.
Like why waste my television?
Yep.
I'm content to watch reruns of Dick Van Dyke, or
Gilligan. I don't have enough free time to spend any of it on a shitty product. That's for darn sure.
Thank you. Exactly. Well, let's tell everybody what's going on. We have a lot of exciting things happening here. We are tell everybody now, we are changing up some of the format of the show. Core product will always be wrestling. So don't worry, we're not going anywhere. We're not going batshit crazy.
It's not a full heel turn.
Well, no, we're not a full heel turn. It's a swerve. It's
a swerve, bro.
It's a swerve, bro. Speaking of which, he's coming back, which I know you're excited about.
Yeah. I'll be on the show this time. I look forward to talking.
Yes, you will. Absolutely. But what we're doing is we're adding some other features to the show besides wrestling. Because, and you and I have talked about it privately, so I'm just going to share some of our private conversation with our audience. Because of the state of wrestling right now, it's really, really difficult to review a match, to talk about a match. There's not much happening that isn't being repeated by 3 different or 4 different companies,
right?
If you want to call them that, but it's the same stuff. So we're not going to waste your time or ours, quite frankly, on bad wrestling. We don't like it, we don't want it, and we're going to diversify our intellect in other areas. Dan is a legitimately smart guy. He's a historian, and he's going to be featuring some show. He doesn't know it yet. He's going to find out right now. He's going to be featuring some shows. We're going to call it History's Mysteries with Dan the Man. So that's your new show, Bo.
Oh, good.
Yeah, History's Mysteries with Dan the Man. We have another show we're premiering called Cryptic Corner. That's going to feature myself. And we have a young lady. Her name is, she is the Cryptic Hunter. And her name is Alyssa Placaros. She's a ghost hunter. And she's a legit ghost hunter. She's going to be with us. She won't be with us every week. She will be featured on our Thursday shows. Tuesday is always our premiere show. Tuesday will always be our headliner show. Thursday is generally going to be reserved for our authors and our special programs involving history or Cryptic Corner. We have a couple of I have it right here. Aha. See, I brought my calendar with me tonight, Dan.
There you go.
So I don't have to say, hey, Dan, who we got? Now I know because we have it. Okay. So tomorrow night, here too. We have a special show tomorrow night. The young lady was supposed to be with us Tuesday night, but because she had to cancel out, we had to reschedule her. Her name is Katie Lee. She is a wrestler, bodybuilder. She is a North American Jiu-Jitsu champion. She is, if Matthew Granahan is the ultimate macho guy, this woman is Mega Woman because she is super jock. She'll be with us tomorrow night to talk about anything that we feel like talking about. We have a show next week. I'm really excited about it. We're going to talk to a guy named Daniel Lowe. He wrote a book on Jesse James called The Life, Death, and Life of Jesse James. He purports, Dan, that Jesse James, the famous outlaw that was killed by allegedly killed by the coward named Bob Howard. You know that old song.
Right.
He says Jesse didn't die. And I said, well, can you prove it? Do you have any substantial evidence? And he kept me on the phone for 4 hours. So he's going to bring some of his info with him, and we're going to talk about what happened to Jesse James. Where did he go, and where did he live out the rest of his life, if in fact he did? The other thing we got going on, we have on the 20th, we got Matthew Granahan. Of course, I love this guy, the King of Connecticut, the suntan Superman. Matt Granahan's coming back on the 20th. He may be bringing a friend of his with him. We don't know yet. I spoke to his friend today. I got to get a commitment. We'll see. If it happens, terrific. If it doesn't, that's okay. We've got a special show on where is it now? I just saw. Oh, Angelo, you just 1st. Had it.
You talking about the one on September 1st?
September 1st. Here we go. We have a very special show. Now, let me tell you how this show came to be. if you watched our show, and apparently many of you did by the numbers, holy crap. If you watched our show with Mike Williams and Vince Russo, Paul is Dead, you heard at the end of the episode, we talked briefly, Vince Russo and I went at it a little bit about Tiny Tim. And I have Vince Russo saying, if you can get someone who knew Tiny Tim, I'll talk about Tiny Tim for 5 hours. Well, he already reneged on that he's going to give us about an hour and a half. So I have Stephen Plym joining me on September 1st. Stephen Plym was Tiny Tim's best friend of 25 years and his personal and business manager. And he was the guy who set up the famous Tiny Tim wedding on the Johnny Carson show, the Tonight Show. We will talk about, and by the way, Tiny Tim's ex-wife lives the next town over, and she's still there. And his daughter lives about 45 minutes from me. Tulip, as she was known, lives in Pennsylvania. We will try to reach out to Tulip. I have been in touch with the former Miss Vicky. She's not interested in becoming a public figure again, so I thanked her for her time. But we're going to try and reach out to Tiny Tim's daughter and see if she'll join us. Perhaps not. Maybe I just won't bother the poor girl. So, Dan, we are going to have Tiny Tim's manager and best friend of many, many years.
I look forward to it.
September the 1st. Now, we've got a couple of things happening after that. A couple more shows, wrestling related, and then we're going to venture into History's Mysteries and Cryptic Corner and talk about the creatures and critters that walk the highway, sometimes walk and crawl the highways and byways of America. So give an idea of what you would like to do on History's Mysteries. What do we not know about history besides a lot?
I was going to say most of it. Well, are you looking for just a documentary type fact show, or are you looking more for like historical conspiracies?
Dan the man wants to give me, because anything you give me is going to be exciting and entertaining and thought provoking, and I'm going to be like this on the edge of my seat going.
We touched on you mentioned Jesse James. That's a big one. I've always been a fan. There's two others as historical of that same mentality is Billy the Kid, and there's also a pretty respectable number of historians that argue the man killed in the barn was not John Wilkes Booth. That
I have actually heard that. In fact, I have actually seen photos.
Yeah, I was about to say, even for as credible as it was covering, everything at the time, one of the early seasons of Unsolved Mysteries delved into it.
There is a man whose name I will mention to you. You will know it immediately if I know anything about you. You know what?
Hey,
you're like the younger brother that I've had
that you never wanted
hidden away in the closet for all these years. It's scary how much you and I think. Here's the thing, though. There's a guy that I would love for you to try to reach out to. His name is Brad Meltzer. Why are you laughing at me?
No, go ahead. I know who that is.
Brad Meltzer.
Yeah.
Decoded. He did a show called Decoded.
Yep. Okay.
If not Brad, then maybe some of the guys that were on his show. I would love to pick their brain. Matthew Granahan suggested something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe we should really look into this because it's very, very compelling. And I followed this case from the moment it happened because I'm old. I can remember. D.B. Cooper.
Yes.
The mystery of D.B. Cooper. The man who purportedly took $20 million.
Yeah, the most famous hijacking in American history.
And they found a lot of the money. All over the Pacific Northwest, in the woods, in the rivers, $20 bills, $100 bills, a lot of just like money falling from the sky. What happened to this man, D.B. Cooper? Well, there are a few people who think they know, and there are a couple of people who say, yeah, I was related to him. So I would love absolutely to cover D.B. Cooper. I would love you to look into definitely Billy the Kid. For that one there that's a head scratcher for sure. That's like,
right.
There are some people, and just give you a little teaser, there are some people that think that it wasn't Billy the Kid who was killed. They think it was his cousin who resembled him, a look-alike cousin. They said that Billy kind of went off and lived his life elsewhere. That's the story I heard. So am I in the ballpark with that?
Yeah, I mean, there's been talk of lookalikes. There's been talk of just a case of mistaken identity. Also the idea very similar to the story behind John Wilkes Booth, where the soldiers and law enforcement involved, it's like, look, this has to be him. I don't care if it is or not.
Yeah.
That's what we're saying. And back then, there was no journalism wasn't what it is today. You told the local paper, we killed Billy the Kid. That was it. Nobody questioned it. That was the story, and move on.
Here's an interesting fact.
Back then.
Here's an interesting fact I know, because I'm smart like you. You're supposed to laugh when the boss laughs. You're supposed to laugh.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's try this again. There's a fact I know, because I'm smart like you. Okay. that when John Wilkes Booth's conspirators went on trial, and there was a woman involved there too. The only woman, from my knowledge, it was
Mary Surratt was the first female executed in the United States.
Yep. And I believe her husband was a doctor.
Her husband, no, they owned a hotel or a bed and breakfast, whatever it was.
But one or both of them gave him some kind of medical attention.
Yeah, you're talking about Dr. Mudd. Yeah, that they stopped at.
And that's where they get the expression, "Your name is Mudd."
Yep.
Yeah, I knew that.
There you go.
Here's the thing, though. They tell me, and what I'm reading says that the conspirators, let me get this right, the conspirators of John Wilkes Booth, when confronted with Booth, did not recognize him. They said, no, that's not him, which gave way to these, theories of a lookalike or a double, a body double. Keep in mind that Booth was an actor.
Right.
And because he was an actor, he had, of course, access to makeup and fake mustaches and prosthetics and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So, I would love you to do any one of those you want to do. I don't care. Do them all. I don't care. But I want you to do well, because we're going to change our show up a little bit.
Okay.
So, and I wanted to take this opportunity to tell people that we appreciate the numbers you are giving us. We're doing some ridiculous numbers, and largely because we have an amazing sponsor at Manscaped.com, who thankfully I can announce now officially and publicly, Manscaped has renewed our contract, and we will be with them. There you go. We will be with them for the foreseeable future. Dan, this is a great spot to do our commercial.
Yeah, well, Manscaped.com, promo code WrestlingFuture for 20% off your purchase. Their current big package includes Their current big package includes the Lawnmower 3.0, which is the leading man trimmer, as well as a ball deodorant, a stabilizer. You get a leather bag. There's got a lot of good stuff. They've got ear and nose hair, among other lotions and various things. But the Lawnmower 3.0, I have it. I use it. It's great. I mean, I cannot say enough, especially in the summer heat. You know, Angela, how humid it can get in Jersey. You don't want that mess. But yeah, manscaped.com, promo code WrestlingFuture, 20% off your purchase. Like I said, like the sign, you know, manscaped.com, your balls will thank you.
Will thank you. And I will attest to the fact that it's hotter than balls here in Jersey. And when you need your Manscaped Lawnmower 3.0, it's handy, it's available, it's ready to rock and roll for you. Truly, it really is the best. And I'm not just saying this because they're our sponsor, because one of the reasons, and I'll tell everybody, I'm going to let you in on it. One of the reasons I went after them too, by the way. One of the reasons I wanted so much to have Manscaped as our sponsor is because I was using the product before they were our sponsor. The other thing people should know is that if you order through us, as Dan said, if you order through us, you will get a very, very generous discount. You will also get a very generous deal. They have made a special deal for us that when you order and when you put your promo code WrestlingFuture in, you will see that you're not just going to get the Lawnmower 3.0, you're going to get a whole accessory kit that comes with it. So, and they have been amazing to us. Our sponsors, I want to thank Kyle, our buddy Kyle at manscaped.com. He is an amazing guy and has been incredibly supportive of our show and me personally, and I cannot thank him enough. I also want to shout out to our friend Mike Messier, who I know is watching. And thank you, Mike, for securing that sponsor. And because I have to acknowledge it, without Mike Messier, we probably wouldn't have manscaped.com. Mike is busy making film, and he's doing his project, his Avalonia Theater Festival. We just we haven't parted ways as friends, but Mike has, left the show. I just need people that are going to be here all the time, and so Dan and I have decided that we're going to take Jason under our wing because he is just a babe in arms right now. We're going to teach him what we know. The bearded sensation, this guy Jason, called him the bearded wonder. He's a great guy. I love Jason. And Jason is actually, he doesn't know it yet. He's probably going to find out right now. Jason is going to be part of the Cryptic Corner.
There you go.
Because he looks like a guy you would find on, like Finding Bigfoot or God.
Oh, man.
He's got the look I'm looking for.
That's funny.
I love you, Jason, but don't take it personal. Shit. Anyway, but we have a lot of great guests coming up. We have so many people. Oh, and Dr. Stephen Greer, the famous ufologist. The man is literally an actual trauma surgeon, an ER trauma surgeon, who traded in his, listen to this, Dan, he traded in his scrubs to chase UFOs. How crazy is that? Dr. Stephen Greer. I know you're already looking down at your phone. You're Googling him as we speak.
Well, the name sounded familiar, and so I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page.
Yeah. See, if you're smart, as you say you are, so you're the smartest guy in the room, I keep telling you're the second smartest guy in the room. Because if you were really smart, what you would do is have your lovely wife sit next to you on the other computer or on her phone, and you just go like this with it, okay? Which means search, okay? So you just sit there and look intelligent, and she hands you the phone. She goes like this, slips you the phone, okay? Like, read it, okay? See, I'm teaching you something, all right? I'm teaching you. I'm trying to teach you here. This is what we used to do back in. This is old school. Old school. It's not shortcutting. It's not shortcutting. It's creative writing. Okay?
Terrible.
It's creative. What do you mean terrible?
Getting Cliff's notes off screen. That's why you use that background. Hide the people standing behind you.
Yeah, well, there you are. Look, there's our Manscaped spot. See, right there. There's the Meadowlands Monster. There's Metal Maniac. I thought we were going to have both of them here tonight. Well, we'll have Lou. Lou will be back for sure.
Right.
I think we're gonna have Lou back. Probably, I'm gonna tell you exactly when right now. We are gonna have Lou on. And I just saw it too. Son of a gun. Here we go. We will have Lou back on probably the 27th of August.
Okay.
Is what it looks like. That'll be a Thursday. So that'll be one of our wrestling episodes. We'll bring him back. So, Dan, is there anything else that we should know?
No, I think we've more than said our fair share tonight.
Good. Well, this is the only time we've really had to talk, you know.
Right.
So we just spent 20 minutes like conversing because we haven't said anything to each other for the last hour and a half. Oh, my God. All right, listen, folks. It's been a long day. It's been a long night. On behalf of Dan the Man, the Happy Haberdasher, and Jason the Bearded Sensation, and Alyssa Placaros, the Cryptic Hunter. I forget what is her name. I think it's the Cryptic Hunter. If not, we're going to make one up for her. Cryptic Corner. She's going to be the host of Cryptic Corner. On behalf of everybody here, it's been, like I said, it's been a long day and it's a long night. Have a good one. Happy wrestling. We'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.